Welcome on in together round gang, it's time for some more Total War Warhammer 3 news. This time we get to learn about Sayl and Tides of Torment, so let's get right to it. Let's cast our gaze to the north and get acquainted with the third and final legendary lord in the Tides of Torment pack. The fellow in question is the Shaman Sorcerer Chieftain of Norsca's Dolgan tribe, and if you'll pardon my Orcish, he's an absolute git. Yep, Sayl the Faithless has earned his title many times over, but his most notably through grim events which propelled him to leadership. As one of 7 sorcerer's apprentices who acted as guides for the Dolgan tribe, Sayl manipulated his master, Skullcane the Vile, into conducting a demonic ritual. When the incantations reached their crescendo, Sayl sabotaged the ritual, unleashing a wild gyre of chaos energies. Skullcane promptly popped like a meat balloon, and Sayal's fellow apprentices were mangled together to form the jabbering chaos spawn known as Nightmaw. It was quite the party, and Sayl literally made a friend for life. He's got a new mangled cat friend here indeed. But those who play with fire tend to get burned, and Sayl himself didn't entirely dodge the fireworks. Mutated and struck blind by the surging effects of the botched ritual, Sayl was cursed forevermore to endure visions of the realm of chaos. While most would find such an outcome somewhat distracting, not Sayl. His hunger for ever greater power grew to monstrous proportions. He immediately seized the reins of the Dolgan tribe, who now follow him, more out of fear than favor, on his quest for arcane might. Sayl's campaign is one of ceaseless self-empowerment, and the perfidious manipulation of others. It takes the best of Norscan gameplay, including many of the new mechanics we've engineered in the long-awaited Norscan overhaul, which lands alongside Tides of Torment. More on this in our next blog. In short, his campaign is a raidy, pillagey, rip-snorting tour. Rip-snorting, huh? I don't think you should do that. Tour de force, which begins at Mountain's End in the far northeast of Mortal Empire's map, and lets you expand where you will from there. You won't make many friends along the way, but with Sayal's gift for Machiavellian meddling, and Nightmaw at his beck and call, who needs them? Campaign mechanics, we've established Sayl seeks power above all else and will commit any act in service of his ambitions. We've engineered his campaign mechanics to reflect this narrative and offer a range of satisfying and, in some cases, monocle poppingly powerful actions, which Sayl can take to achieve his aims. So he's got a unique manic, the mechanic Dark Ritual. This shall appear at the very top, and Sayl's end goal is to enact a Dark Ritual, which will grant him the power he seeks. We've got 3 stages, and then a final stage with 30 something or other. To do so, he must erect enough Chaos Altars in the sites of conquered settlements to trigger this ritual, so this is probably 30 of those Chaos Altars. That's quite a few. Unlike other Norscan factions, who erect such altars and dedicate them to any of the ruinous powers, Sayl's altars represent Chaos Undivided. I actually think Sayl more represents, since he doesn't work for either of them, Sayl kind of more represents malice, but we'll not dive too deeply into that. Spreading its corruption to the regions where you erect them. They function as limited settlements with a reduced slot count, which also contribute to your income, research rate control, and a host of other factors. Their most important function is to fuel Sayl's Dark Ritual. Altars are optional, of course. You may wish to pillage, occupy, or raise a settlement instead of erecting one. Giggity. However, they're crucial to both Sayl's campaign progress and unlocking new manipulations, see below. So it's a case of balancing the construction against your wider campaign needs. Which is how it works for all of the other Norscan factions too, which is Sayl is more about, you don't have to worry about which god to dedicate to, you just need to build up 30 of these things, which I feel makes it not that big a deal. You want at least 1 or 2 of these in each of your provinces, which, that makes sense, unless you build it up quite quickly. Your Dark Ritual progress is tracked in the UI and moves through 4 stages. The Whispering, the Binding, the Unveiling, and the Ascension. As you raise altars and cross the threshold from one stage to the next, you'll attract the attention of the forces of order, namely the Empire, High Elves, and the Lizardmen. To reap the benefits of moving to a new stage, you'll need to tackle a quest battle and defeat a force belonging to one of these factions, which we do have a quest battle up for the Empire one, so if you'd like to see that, go take a look. And what are those benefits? Here comes the really nasty stuff. Our next unique feature is the manipulation screen here, which looks incredible. We've got his little nasty clawed fingers, and he's one of those guys that makes the finger puppet claws, so as you would expect, they become Chaos Sorcerers, which does make sense. Here we've got selected Sight Beyond Sight, which for 5 turns, the hellish maddening dimensions of the Demon Realm open avenues of sight none but Sayl can traverse. And his little bloodshot eyeball here. For 5 turns, we'll gain visibility of all of the target faction's regions and armies. That's crazy. And then hero action success chance against the target faction's characters is plus 30%. So for 5 turns, everything they do is known to you, and your heroes shall ruin their day. And that's just one of them. And that is one of the first tier ones, it looks like, too. Looks like this one's selected because it's a little bit more highlighted. So yeah, no, that's one of the first tier, and there are 4 tiers of these. How terrifying. Sayl's defining gameplay feature is his ability to manipulate other factions, or even his own forces, to bend affairs to his own will. There are 4 potential targets for these manipulations. 4 possible manipulations can be used against each type of target. The first target type gives you ways to meddle with friendly and enemy factions. The Tier 1 faction manipulations, Sight Beyond Sight, grant you visibility over all regions, and settlements belonging to the target faction. As you progress through the tiers, you'll unlock even more powerful tools to influence how factions interact with the world and each other. You're going to have so much fun with this one. So this is Fear and Fatigue. Doesn't tell us what it does, but in the name it sounds like leadership and stamina. And if you lose those, you tend to lose battles. Up next is a range of manipulations which enables Sayl to mess with friendly and enemy settlements, harvesting resources from them, causing attrition, and by tier 4, raising them completely. I also just click and the settlement goes away. Yeah, that's always balanced. Of course, Sayl can also manipulate armies, reducing leadership and vigor, sunlocking them on the campaign map, stunlocking them, and damaging them or triggering mutinies, which split half the army off to form a hostile rebel force. I mean, depending on which half the army you get, that could be a serious problem. Sayl can also target his own armies for manipulation, enabling them to instantly complete one term of any global and local recruitment they're undertaking. That is goofy strong. Summoning armies for battle support or sacrificing a marauder unit to summon a greater demon in their place. That's a cool interaction. Can't wait to throw all of our poor monkey men into the grinder to turn them into greater demons. Each successive tier of manipulations is linked to your dark ritual progress, and can only be unlocked by defeating forces of order army, or a forces of order army corresponding to your current stage. Using manipulations carries risks of drawing the attention of Chaos Worshippers, who watch Sayl's progress closely. Provoking them into action will present a significant dilemma, so choose wisely. On to Sayl himself, and he looks fantastic. As I said a couple times, it looks really strange with the snakes. Yeah, no, see, this is what happens when your warm-up jersey back in the day doesn't get washed for too long, and you drop it on the ground and it makes a weird clattering sound. It's concerning. That's what happened to the snake here. They look very strange, all straightened out, but Sayl looks awesome. I love his little, like, even the kind of little metal fingertip spikes that the kids would mess with in elementary and middle school. And then you've got the Skull of Chaos to tell people a story. It's the storytime skull, as I've already said. Sayl is, it says Chaos Undivided. I feel like he's more Malice, who kind of hates everything, including Chaos, but correct me in the comments for any who have a better understanding of Sayl's character in the lore itself. Let's keep going. As a shaman sorcerer wielding the lores of Shadows and Heavens, it should come as no surprise that Sayl's skill tree has a heavy magical focus. This unique skill line unlocks some pretty amazing magical enhancements for himself and his forces. One of his most potent abilities is a lingering side effect of the aborted ritual that slew his former master, which imbues his entire army with magical attacks. That's a more common effect than it used to be, but it's always good to see. Bonus weapon strength and spell resistance. It allows him to basically stab demons in the back without really worrying about the repercussions, because you've got the armor, you've got the resistances, but then you ignore all of theirs. Oh my, he looks horrible. It threw me off entirely. Why? This is what happens when you work with Sayl. You get turned into a naked mole rat gone wrong. You'd see one of these crawling out of the sewers in, like, Fallout. If Fallout was good. Or continue to be good, I guess. Where were we? Alongside this, there's a host of enhancements across his skills that combine to make him a rapid-fire spell-casting powerhouse, probably much like Teclis, who flies around with almost no cooldowns. Several of his abilities also unlock extra uses per battle of his signature ability, Nightmaw, which summons his faithful three-headed spawn to the field to barrel through enemy ranks. And have we already seen, Nightmaw looks nasty. Sayl also gets some neat mount options with the Warhorse, which is very neat, I guess. Your typical Warhorse, Marauder Chariot, and the War Shrine Mammoth mount, which is amazing. War Shrine War Mammoth. Plus, he's able to grant some significant buffs to any monsters, arcana monsters, which he tames and presses into service. As the leader of the Dolgans, Kurgan Horsemen in particular benefit from some stellar buffs if they serve in his army, including poison attacks and a hefty 20% damage bonus. Okay then. The Dolgan Horsemen. Or I guess the Kurgan Horsemen. Moving on, we've got the unit roster for your generic Great Shaman Sorcerer Lord, which I think look awesome. All three of the variants, Death, Metal, and Fire, are going to look slightly different. You can see that here, actually. Actually, these are the different variants in general, and then you add the extra layers on top. So like the fire one will have little glowy tips to the horns, and the death mage will have a lot of extra feathers and bones and such. And then the metal mage kind of coats all of his stuff in metal. Instead of bone, it's a lot of gilded items. The Great Shaman Sorcerer is a new lord type introduced with Sayl. These can be recruited as practitioners of the lores of fire, death, or metal. They share the same mount options as Sayl, and for spellcasters can be surprisingly handy in a scrap. They can be, but they're not nearly as good as your Chaos Sorcerer Lords. Chaos Sorcerer Lords are scary good at throwing hands. This is largely down to their offering of the God's Skill, which sacrifices some friendly entities to drive the Shaman Sorcerer into a battle frenzy, granting significant bonuses to his melee attack and leadership, plus his basic and armor-piercing weapon damage. Oh. Does it give it to... So I've used that, and it gave the bonus to the unit you basically sacrifice, so maybe it gives it to both, and that's a bug, and it's supposed to only be for the Shaman Sorcerer? Interesting. Moving on, though, we have our legendary lord, Beorg Bearstruck, who we're going to see how many times we can use the word incredible. He looks incredible. Look at him. You got the kind of Norse tattoos that have been all ripped up. I think some of these probably should have healed over time because he's a werebear, but no, he looks great braided skulls, and as you do. As you do. Beorg is a shining example of what happens when you really impress the ruinous powers. His body twisted into a truly bestial form. Beorg is a werebear of unparalleled strength and ferocity. After you've raided a certain amount of gold from the factions around you, you'll impress Beorg enough for him to nail his colors to Sayl's mast and arrive on scene. Again, hang on now, phrasing. Looking for some action. Again, phrasing. He has something of a fan club too in the form of the new Marauder Bearman units. These followers are well rewarded for their devotion, as any that are recruited to an army where Beorg is embedded in gain a significant range of combat bonuses granted by his unique skills. These include Vanguard deployment, which is always good, Frenzy, yes please, Fear, Warcry, and Reduced Upkeep, plus enhanced charge bonus and melee defense stats. Occupying a mid-tier melee role between Marauders and Marauder champions, Bearmen can become thoroughly ferocious when led by Beorg, and they're a very good mid-tier unit. They actually perform, while they're not as tanky as the likes of Jade Warriors, they do remind me a lot of like just the overall usefulness of Jade Warriors for a tier 2 unit. As for himself, Beorg can power up with a range of melee bonuses granted by his skills until he becomes one of your most valuable melee units. The cherry on the cake is his Thrill of Battle skill, which replenishes 15% of his army's action points after winning a battle. You put him with anyone else that already boosts up movement range after winning a battle, and you're going to be zooming around the map. Moving on to my new favorite Norskin hero unit, we have the Famir Noble. Look at them. Oh, they actually will strap different kind of old rusty anchors and stuff to their tails to use as weapons. The Famir Nobles are awesome. There's a frontal look at them. Mochi, quit shouting while we're trying to read this. Come here. Come here. Tell the people hello. That's the mic. Tell people hello. Oh, you're quiet now, huh? Really? Really? Well, you can sit here as long as you continue to be so. Moving on. Strong and versatile, the Famir Nobles are melee experts who play well with other Famir. Through their unique skill line, they unlock a range of bonuses for any Famir they fight alongside, including stock, combat buffs, and armor boosts. Yeah, giving all of your Famir, which already are nearly impervious to missiles, stock, that seems good. They also can be focused in one of 3 distinct directions: raiding and pillaging, out-and-out damage dealing, or further Famir buffing. As Sayl begins with a Famir Noble already in play, he begins with one already in play, so it's well worth embedding him straight into Sayl's starting army, which I don't know why you wouldn't do. It's a melee bodyguard for Sayl. It's perfect. Next up, we have our melee infantry, the Marauder Bearmen, who big old beefy boys. Not much else to say about it. It's big old beefy boys with some armor. These almost kind of looks like this one specifically kind of looks like a rendition of what you would see from the Teutonic Knights would kind of range into the north, which is really cool. Was looted from the Teutonians, maybe. Neat. These feisty fellows are a fightier, more heavily armored unit than the regular Marauders and come in 2 recruitable flavors: Axe and Shield and Great Weapon. They're pretty cost-effective and relatively hardy, but when fighting alongside Beorg Bearstruck, they can really exceed their modest station. And they're really not modest, they're a really good unit. You get 20 less of them than your normal Marauders, but they're just so much more chunky, so they hang in there for a while. Then we've got our Cursed Etten here, which, if you've seen some of these animations, these things stick in line with great big giant units being both dumb and gross at the same time, where that's unfortunate. Look, he's got a strong hand over here too. It's his strong hand. Great. Gigantic two-headed Chaos Aberrations, cursed Ettins are of similar size and physical strength to giants, but harbor two distinct personalities which constantly wrestle for dominance. When above 50% health, the Ettin's Betrayer personality dominates, creating a bonus speed, faster charges, and glorious charge, which a few of these things are changing, but I'm not sure if I'm able to mention them just yet, so just keep in mind that this is not final. And unyielding assault abilities. If its hit points fall below 50%, its Savage personality takes over, increasing its base and armor-piercing damage, though its savagery does lower its melee defense rating a little bit. I also think it should let it heal, which is important to notice, or important to note. And then we have our Cursed Ettin, the Rune Collar, which is a little bit more purple, same besides purple, he actually still has his hair somehow. And I guess he's caped up, because he's a proper wizard, right? The Rune Collar differs from its non-magical sibling by fielding several bound spells, making it a chunky old spellcaster. When above 50% hit points, the Rune Collar's Betrayer personality dominates, nullifying all enemy magical weapons within 20 meters. They may have changed it, but that was for enemies and allies, so it makes it a double-edged sword. If it falls below 50% health, the Savage personality seizes control, regenerating the Ettin's health and restoring its strength, keeping it in the fight and allowing it to unleash even more spells. Which, important to note, this thing has bound spells, so it's not giving you access to more spells, it just says it's keeping it alive longer so it can use all the spells it has. That's important to note. Moving on to our four-headed, flying dog beast. Triple-headed monstrosity is the Chimera. It's a chaotic combat powerhouse. And those three heads aren't just for show. Its attacks deal simultaneous fiery, poisonous, and magical damage. Plus, with 6 eyes on the lookout for danger, it's damn hard to sneak up on the thing. Getting a little bit PG-13 with our blogs, are we? Making it immune to flanking. Fly it over an enemy unit, drop it in the center, and watch the fun begin. And then we've got our worm monster, the Dreadmaw, which I'm really excited about. These are great. There's really not much to say other than it's a upgraded version of the Manticore, which is immune to flanking. And has breath attacks. It's fantastic. It's like a dragon, but a little bit smaller. Actually, it performs very similar to a Bale Taurus, which is like a dragon, but a little bit smaller. Then we've got our Dreadmaw, the Tunnel Snakes of Murderous Proportion. Yes. While an unfortunate moniker, these things look awesome. And they are very unique. These sludge-dwelling fiends don't fight like your typical units. Their true menace lies below the surface. They burrow through the battlefield, moving freely and undetected. While underground, they can't attack, be attacked, or be targeted, though area of effect debuffs can still reach them. Maybe area of effect damage can too, we'll have to see. When they erupt from the earth, it's a wholly unexpected shower of filth, stinking slime, and snapping jaws. If the enemy tries to flee, as they very well might, the Dreadmaw still has a nasty surprise. A potent poison spit ranged attack. Above ground, it can also burrow deeper, slipping under walls and obstacles to strike where foes least expect it. But beware, if routed, the Dreadmaw's survival instinct trait triggers, and it will immediately break and flee. It's kind of their main counter is as soon as they break above the surface, you need to dogpile them with everything you can that drops leadership. Because the second they break, you don't have to worry about them anymore. They're going to go back underground and they are going to leave that fight. Very dangerous while they're there, but the second that leadership's gone, they are no longer a threat, which poses a very interesting but very threatening unit here. I don't know if this is a longer Dreadmaw, this is kind of your chunkier you versus the Dreadmaw she told you not to worry about. Something like that. Kurgan Horsemen, my favorite unit of the Norscan lineup so far. You've got capes, extra armor, and these guys are monsters. Kurgan Horsemen excel in engagements against infantry, and really anything they can flank, deploying near enemy lines and charging unexpectedly out of forested terrain. The dual weapon wielding riders are especially deadly against run-of-the-mill foot soldiers, while Kurgans brandishing great weapons can effectively deal with all armored infantry. As long as their morale is high and they're allowed to take their time in the thick of battle, their frenzy and rage abilities make them even deadlier and more durable. They also have devastating flankers, so if you look at their stats, they don't have any more survivability than your normal Marauder skirmish horsemen, but what they do have is the scariest combat stats of any light horseman I've seen, and when they hit with devastating flanker, they are going to rip through enemies and then make themselves a lot more tanky and punchier in the process. Adore the Kurgan Horsemen. That's all we have to say for Sayl's blog. Next week, we'll get closer acquainted with the mask and tell you everything there is to know about the free content that's dropping alongside Tides of Torment. In the meantime, you can head over to the CA community and our official Discord server to join the discussion around Tides of Torment and share your thoughts. See you on the battlefield. Indeed, indeed. Let me know as well what you all think about the Norskins, and at this point, now that we've seen all of the factions, which is your favorite? Which are you the most likely to pick up? If you're only going to choose one, or are you going to go ahead and pick up all three? I'd love to hear from you. And which of these units from Norska is your favorite? Is it just the four-headed chimera? Is it the snake monster? Or is it this purple lad that is going to blast people with spells and probably be a big old problem? Like I said, let me know, and I will see you all in the next one.